Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me very great pleasure to introduce our special guest tonight, who's going to play wonderful banjo and guitar and sing songs and also make us laugh. You will make us laugh, won't you?
I'll play the banjo, yes, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bev Pegg.
Thank you very much, thank you. We're just having a little management meeting now, hang on. Are we going to do something? George is going to lift that mic up to a sensible level, and he's going to turn the volume up a little because it's a bit quiet in the office.
I'll do that.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to go and get my I nearly said sitar then, my guitar. I've got a sitar at home, it's a very small one actually, it's a baby sitar. So that's something. But now, some of you have seen me before. How many haven't seen me before? That's it, right? Fine. How many couldn't give a bugger whether you've seen me or not? Right, that's fine, right. Well, for those of you that haven't, my name's Bev Pegg, and I come from a little fishing village about 25 miles away called Cradley, Heath. And I spent most of my life in Cradley, Heath. Working and living there, although actually I wasn't born there, I was born out in the country. I was born in a little place called Wedlock, well just outside Wedlock I was born. And my only claim to fame is that I used to play guitar with the Everly brothers. Right, impressed? Impressed? Not the Everly brothers from America, the Everly brothers from Cradley Heath. One's heavily into drink and the other's heavily into drugs. But, I mean, Cradley Heath, anybody been to Cradley Heath? It's ridden with crime though, it's not like round here, this is posh, but Cradley Heath's ridden with crime. If you go into the market and you want to buy a pair of stockings, they ask you what your head size is. I was in bed with the missus the other night and we heard this noise downstairs, and I said, can you hear something downstairs in the kitchen? She said, yeah. And I said, do you want to go and have a look? And I thought I'd be brave, so I tiptoed down the stairs quietly, and I could hear this noise in the kitchen. I opened the kitchen door gently, and there was this yob, about 18 years old, with a balaclava over his head, you know, just his eye hole showing, opening all the bloody drawers and cupboards, you know. And I shocked him, you see. I said, hey, what you doing? And he turned around and he said, I'm looking for cash and jewellery. And I said, well, hang on, let's turn the light on, we'll both have a look if you like. So look, I'll tell you what I'll do. Now, the chaps in the band sitting here, like, they're like, you know, this one actually doesn't entail musical accompaniment. That's all right with you, John. I mean, somebody did mention, because I don't know whether you've been onto YouTube. Anybody go onto YouTube? Anybody have computers here? Do they read Solihull yet? No. There's a thing on YouTube with me doing the Cradley Heath song, you see, and somebody suggested I did it tonight. So, well, what the hell, we'll have a go, eh? Right. So this is all about familiarise you with Cradley Heath. Cradley Heath means home to me. Thank you very much, thank you. Well, my drink goes down anyway. I was in the library in Cradley the other day, because I know the girl, we're having a chat, you know, because she runs the Cradley website, and this bloke looks all depressed, and he comes in and he said, I'm sorry to interrupt, he said, but he said to Jill, he said, have you got any books about committing suicide, please? And she says, she says, if you go down the middle alley, the aisle, and turn right, and then the next one on the left, and third shelf up, you might find half a dozen books with that heading. And he said, okay, so I'll carry on talking to him, and he comes back 5 minutes later, he said, I've had a look, he said, I can't find any. She said, I know, they never bring them back. I mean, I don't just do this, singing with bands and things like that. I mean, I do a little bit of local operatic stuff, you know. In fact, I've just landed the part of Dick in Dick Whittington in the pantomime in Cradley. My missus says, they could have searched all round here, they wouldn't have found a better Dick than me. So she knows I'm quite good at it. And we've just finished we had a production in September with the Halzowen Bigamist Operatic Society. Yeah, we've just done Seven Brides for Two Brothers. So. There was this girl outside the fish and chip shop in Cradley, eating her fish and chips, leaning against the wall, and she got her knickers round her ankles. And I said, "What you got your knickers round your ankles for, love?" She said, "Oh, has he gone?" I mean, it's just like that. Well, I mean, and also, the difference is, when I was a kid in Cradley, I used to know everybody's name, because it's a small, close-knit community. But it's changed over the last 10, 15, 20 years, which isn't a problem for me. But I mean, people have come in from all over the world. There's mass immigration now, isn't there? I mean, there's blokes coming from China, Pakistan, India, Czech Republic, Romania, Poland, you name it. They're all in here now. And I mean, a lot of them are living in Cradley. And there's not as I've said, it's not a problem. I still not to them. Everybody gets on with each other very nicely, you know. But it's just that you can't, I don't know half the names and all that sort of thing. I mean, for example, there were these two girls walking up Cradley High Street. And the one said to her mate, she said, "I think I'm pregnant, you know." And the mate said, "Have you had a check-up?" She says, "No," she said, "I think it was a bloke from Dudley, to be honest." Has anybody been in Round Table here? Anybody in Round Table? Anybody used to be in Round Table? Yes, that's it. Also in Round Table, I was in the 60s. And this time of year, it starts to get, I used to get very fulfilled this time of year, because we used to go around and we used to take the hot meals a couple of weeks before Christmas to the old people, you know, that couldn't really fend for themselves. And you'd knock on the door, you know, "Here you are, my love, hot meal. Oh, thank you ever so much." Oh, you walk away thinking, "Oh, this is great." You know, this is what life's all about. Because I've never been one for voluntary work, you know. Somebody said, "Would you do some voluntary work?" I said, "I wouldn't do voluntary work if you bloody paid me." But yeah, so I can remember one day I took this hot meal to this. I knocked on this door and nothing happened, and knocked again, and it creaked open, and this old lady came. She must have been about 90 odd, had 3 or 4 teeth in her head. That's about all. And she said, "What you want?" And I said, "I bought you a nice hot Christmas meal, my love." She said, "Well, you can take it off. I don't want it." And I said, "It's a nice meal, nice hot meal for you, surely you do." She said, "No," she said, "I don't like your food." She said, "I had one last week and I don't like it." She said, "You peas them too hard." I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Surely not." She said, "Yes, you come down here." So she took me down this little hall, passageway, into the living room, and there was a solitary plate with this solitary pea on it. And she said, "Here's one of your peas from last week's meal." She said, "You try and bite that." And I said, "Oh yes, it is a bit hard." She says, "There you are." She said, "And that's been through me twice." Of course, now I must admit, I must own up now, I don't live in Cradley Heath anymore. I've actually moved. I moved to Hagley. It's not Hagley, because when we moved, somebody said to my missus, my missus is a bit of a snob actually, somebody said to her, "You've moved to Stourbridge, haven't you?" She said, "No, Hagley actually." So it's called Hagley actually. So I moved there for tax purposes actually. Very posh Hagley, it is very posh. We have the big issue delivered to us, you know. And they still have crime, but they don't have muggers like they do in Cradley. They call them architects and accountants. They still rob you blind. There were these 2 gay muggers in Hagley. One attacked this woman and held her on the ground, and the other one did her hair for her. There were these two posh ladies in Hagley. These 2 posh ladies by the spa in Hagley, and the one said, "Oh, Rebecca, for God's sake, here's my husband coming with a bunch of flowers." And she said, "Felicity, that's very nice if he brings a bunch of flowers. That's lovely and thoughtful." She said, "No, I hate it when he brings me a bunch of flowers, because it means, when he brings me a bunch of flowers, it means I've got to spend the next 7 nights on my back with my legs in the air." And she said, "Come on, Felicity, surely you've got a vase." Has anybody been to the Merry Hill Centre?
Yes.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? I love going. I tell you what, when it's weather like this, I don't want to go shopping in Cradley. I want to go to Merry Hill, because it's very nice. And I mean, you go into Merry Hill and you have a packet of crisps. I mean, if you're going to Cradley and you have a packet of crisps and you finish, you throw it in the gutter, you know, because there's crap everywhere in the gutter. But Merry Hill, nobody leaves any mess in the gutter in Merry Hill because they've got this culture of cleanliness. They have these little dust carts going all the way round, you know, cleaning up all the litter, and the malls, they've got these lots of ladies with big wide brushes and emptying all the bins, so you never see any litter on the floor. There's a complete culture, cleanliness culture everywhere. Even the pigeons fly upside down over Merry Hill, so they don't make a mess, do they? And they wait till they're over Dudley and have a good old crap over it. I bought some tortoise shell shoes from Clark's in Merry Hill the other week. It took me 2 hours to walk back to the car. I mean, you won't believe this, girls, but I'm 69 now. I'm 69 with the body of a man 68. But I was walking through Merry Hill with my mate Kevin, and we went past Boots the chemist, and Kevin says, when you get to your age, he said, what do you want? You want to buy some Viagra tablets. And I said, well, can you get it over the counter? He said, well, you can if you take 2. And I went into WH Smith's. I went into WH Smith's and I said, excuse me, love, to this girl. I said, excuse me, but do you sell bereavement cards? And she says, yes, we do. I said, well, is it possible you can exchange this Get Well card I bought yesterday? I wanted to get my granddaughter a little DVD because she got all these modern Toy Story stuff, which is all right. But I mean, I like the traditional stuff like Bambi and Pinocchio and that, you know, because they haven't had a taste of these little kids today. You know, when we were kids in the 40s, they were real stories, weren't they? You know. And I went into HMV up Merry Hill, and they got this DVD of Bambi, the original Walter Disney version, you know, on DVD. And I went up to the girl. I said, excuse me, love. I said, how much are these DVDs of Bambi? And she said, they're £13.99. And I said, oh, I said, that's a little dear. Now, what am I going to do? Yeah, I don't know if you can smell my... I've got some new aftershave tonight. Can you smell my aftershave, can you?
Not yet, no.
It's called Stallion. I had a bloody horse follow me home the other night. But I'll tell you the one thing about Merry Hill that I don't like, that, you know, it's lost a little bit of class because they just opened one of these sex shops in Merry Hill, and I don't like that sort of thing much, to be honest. There was this lady in the queue, she was just in front of me the other day. And she went to the bloke behind the counter, because they have men and women behind it, and she said to this bloke, she said, excuse me, she said, but do you sell vibrators? And he said, yes, my love. He said, I've got stacks of them, take your pick. And she said, could I have that one up there, that tartan one? He said, well, you can't have that. He said, that's my flask. My wife bought one of these vibrators from Amazon. She'd only had it 3 days. She knocked all the front teeth out. But I mean, I'm getting old now. I'm knocking on a bit. And I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror. That's when you look your worst, isn't it, in the morning, first thing in the morning. I look in the mirror and I think, Christ, you're an old bloke, you are. And your cheeks sag down there. I can see these lines down here. And your eyelids droop down there as you get old. That's terrible. And your neck gets all craggy. And I get quite depressed. My self-esteem's right down, you know, in the morning like that. But I've got the perfect cure for this. When I feel this bad, I go up to Merry Hill and I have a walk round the Asda. And I look at some of the folks in the Asda and I think, I ain't such a bad looking bloke after all. So I tell you, you obviously don't have an Asda around here. Why do the women all take the kids into Asda to smack them? I was in the queue the other day at the checkout in Asda, and this old lady suddenly dropped down dead in front of me, and I felt ever so sorry because she just bought one of these bags for life. Now, yeah, actually, I'll tell you this. I'm not trying to get around you, but you are a very, very nice audience. This is the sort of crowd I'll really appreciate. You're really good. Because even if you don't like your audience and they don't take much notice of anything, they're rude to you, you should never make any mention of it. I mean, years ago when I was a bit greener, as it were, I was doing this rough club in Wolverhampton, and they were taking no notice of me at all, you know, whatsoever. And they were making such a row. There was a big gangway down the middle, and the bar, they were all clattering and talking and turning their back and everything. And I snapped, you know, and you should never sort of lose your temper if you're a performer or whatever you call it. And I snapped, you know, and I said, right, I'm fed up with you lot. Absolutely fed up. I said, you can take your hooks as far as I'm concerned. I said, you lot over there, you're a bunch of prats. And you lot over there, you're a bunch of puffs. And this big bloke gets up, he was about 6'8", and he starts coming over to me. I thought he's going to hit me, you know. I said, look, mate, I don't want any trouble. He said, no, it's all right, I was on the wrong side. Oh, dear me. Right, I'll tell you what, now what should we do? What should I do? Oh, Christ, and time flies, and time flies. I'll do we'll do Dinah, Should we do Dinah in F, something like that? Yeah. Right. We did a jazz club, so we might as well play something, right? Is there anyone finer in the state of Carolina? If there is, and you know it. To the house of Dundee. What a wonderful band this is. Good grief. Good grief. Yeah, right. I love this. I love you over again. Thank you. What a wonderful band this is. It's a great honour for me to be with this place. Brilliant.
Entertain these people.
Well, that's very nice. How long is it? About an hour, George. I've got.
I should be at home in bed, Martin.
I'm glad George has given me a chance because I bought my poetry book tonight because they said you were a very educated audience. So I'll get it on this. Sorry.
Right, I'll just.
I bet you're looking forward to this, aren't you? Really?
I am.
Right. And I've been writing a few poems lately, and you know they're. I'm quite proud of them, you know. If I can find them, I'll put me. Let's have a little drink. Ooh. I had a bit to drink last Saturday night, you know. Ooh. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and to my horror, our waterbed had burst. And then I remember we haven't got a waterbed. Okay, I tell you what, I'd hate to be incompetent when I get old, you know. My granddad was incontinent. He worked on the circus, you know, because he was an industrialist, but he worked on the circus part-time. He used to be an incontinent trapeze artist. I don't know whether that was worse for him or worse for the audience, to be honest. I was with him in the house when he found that he'd got this incontinence coming on, and he rang the doctor. He thought, I better ring him on the old telephone, you know, that you don't. He said, doctor, he said, I think I'm becoming incontinent. And the doctor said, well, where are you ringing from? He said, from the waist down. As I said, my granddad was a chain maker, so he was very strong, and he used to work part-time on the circus. And what he used to do on the circus, with his strongman act, the climax of his strongman act, was to actually get a half-inch iron bar, and he used to bend it across his erect penis. And he did that till he was 84 years old, till his wrists went. I remember before he died, my granddad went into an old folks' home, you know, and we used to visit him in this old folks' home, and he'd got a rocking chair, but they propped it forward with wedges, you know, so it was leaning forward, so it looked like he was interested in your conversation when you were talking to him, you know. And my granddad only knew one joke. He only knew one joke, and one day in this old folks' home, he told the same joke to the bloke next to him 24 times. And the bloke next to him said, I don't know how he remembers them all. When he when it was his 95th birthday, they decided at the nursing home the nurses would get a bit of a party for him. So they got a bit of a surprise birthday cake with the 95 candles on, and they also, for a bit of a laugh, they hired this stripogram, and they thought this'll put a bit of life into him, you know. And he was in his rocking chair, you know. Oh no. The wheel was going round, but the hamster was dead, you know, that sort of thing. And he blew all his candles out, and then this girl comes in. Let's put my drink down. This beautiful girl comes in. She was about sort of mid-30s, beautiful body, totally stark naked under this great big sort of boxers type dressing gown, you know, big red dressing gown. And she said, right, where's the old chap, you know? And they said, he's over there. And she said, oh, blimey, I'm going to have a job waking him up. And she got across she got a black dressing gown. Was it black or red? Red, that's right. Red dressing gown. I get mixed up with the black. I'm colourblind, see. She got this red dressing gown in black letters all across the front. Super sex, you know, that was her sort of code word, you know. And she went up to the old chap, you know, the old granddad. And she said, Grandad, happy birthday. And she went, super sex, and opened us, exposed it up, and he said, I think I'll have the soup. There were these two old ladies, these two old ladies walking down the road, these two old ladies, and the one said to the other, she says, Mavis, she says, I'm 84 now, she says, and you won't believe this, but I'm getting married next week for the 4th time. I'm 80, she says, you never are. She said, you ever go to the registry office? I'm getting married for the 4th time. She said, I'll tell you something else, Mavis. She says, you wouldn't believe this, but I'm still a virgin. She said, you've been getting married for the 4th time, and you're 84, and you're still a virgin. She said, yes, it's true, perfectly true. She said, my first husband, he was a psychologist, and he just liked to talk about it all the time. And my second husband, he was a gynecologist, and he just liked to examine me all the time. And she said, and my third husband, he was a stamp collector. She said, mind you, I'll miss him. Oh dear me. Anyhow, look, I'll tell you what, I promise you these poems. Now, you're going to like some of these. I haven't written all of them, there's one or two, but I'll just test you out to see what sort you like. I mean, there's a little one that isn't one of mine, I must admit, but I'll come to mine in a minute. This is a nice little poem. This is just a short one. They sat on the grassy bank, and she was all a quiver. He undid her suspender belt, and her leg fell in the river. I like to go one step further, you know. So not because rhyming poems are a bit simple, childish, aren't they? Really, but. I mean, I think prose are better, where they don't rhyme, but they're more meaningful. Now, these are some of these that I've got into quite a bit lately. Here's one. The boy stood on the burning deck, in his pockets, biscuits and crackers. So he dived into the sea and swam to the nearest island. Now, here's another one. Fair maiden, I like it in the sort of 16th century talk, you know, because fair maiden, where'st thou walked this morn, where the butterfly in its splendour flits, in your low-cut blouse so tightly worn, I can see your house in the distance where'st thou livest. Here's another one, I'm quite proud of it. I find these come easy to me, you know. The pirate captain shouted loud, slaves, keep your oars on the rowlocks. For if I find one of ye not pulling his weight, I shall punish thee. Here's another, right. Kind sir, hast thou seen a thief? I think he ran behind these walls. If I am fortunate to apprehend him soon, I shall kick him till he falls. Now here's another one. Mary had a little dress, the skirt was split in half, and every step that Mary took, the boys could see her calf. Mary had another dress, split high up the front, but she never wore that one. we are. Now listen, I've got confused now. I was going to... Shall I sing one or shall I don't know. Right. I'm a Villa supporter, actually. I don't know whether... And... Of course, this new manager, Gerard Houllier, he's not doing very well at the moment, really. And when the Pope come over, about 6 weeks ago, he decided that to get the Villa to play a little bit better, he perhaps ought to sort of have a word with him, see if he could do something from up there, And so he queued up for 2 hours to see the Pope. And when he eventually got to see the Pope, he whispered in the Pope's ear, and the Pope said, no, I am too old and too fat. And he says, no, Your Holiness. He said, I said, would you pray for us on Saturday? Not bloody play for us. When I was a kid, because I was a war baby, I was born in the war years, They used to say, war, look at him, I was walking after 6 months because the bottom of the pram fell out. But my parents used to embarrass me. I was an only child, you see. I was a premature baby. I was born before my mum and dad got married. In fact, but my parents used to embarrass me. They went on this Mr. and Mrs. programme, remember that programme, Mr. and Mrs. years ago. And this was in the sort of 50s, mid to late 50s. And I think it was Denny Taylor or something, the bloke, but I can't remember his name anyhow. And he said, the next contestants, Mr. and Mrs. Pegg. And he said, now here's a question, Mr. Pegg. He said, for £20, because that was big money in those days, for £20, he said, what is it that a woman's got 2 of that a man likes to kiss? And we put her hand up right away, she said, lips. Very good, £20, right. Now for £40, Mr. and Mrs. Pegg, here's another question. What is it that a man has got 2 of that a woman likes to hold? And my mum put her hand up again, she said, hands. Very good, excellent. He said, right, now for £80, and he turned to me dad, he said, Mr. Pegg, would you like to answer, your wife's answered the first, would you like to answer the next one? He said, no. He said, let her carry on. He said, I got the first 2 wrong, to be honest. Because another thing that I was looking on the television the other week, on the news, it said that at school, in primary school these days, 5-year-olds are having basic sex education. Did anyone see that? At 5 years old, the basics. Now, when I was a kid, we never knew anything. We never had that at school. They never told us about that. And in fact, my parents never told me anything about it. You just didn't do when you were young kids in the 40s and 50s and that. I never knew anything about. I asked my mum once, I said, how do you get babies, Mum? And she said, you have to have a dog bite. She thought I said rabies. I learned about sex. I learned about sex from watching dogs do it. And I learned that you had to hold on tightly to the back legs. Because I was 23 years old before I made love. That's with the participation of another person. One girlfriend said I was no good at it, but how could she tell after just a couple of minutes? But there's all this thing on the radio and television these days about avoiding casual sex. Well, what's casual sex? With your collar open or something? I've never had casual sex. I've always been bloody frantic when I've had it. And practice safe sex. When I was a kid, safe sex was not telling them where you lived. Anybody ever been to the Odeon at Stourbridge? Yeah, well, there's a great big foyer. You go into the Odeon Stourbridge to see the film. And years ago, it's all knocked down now, but there was this. Back in the sort of 50s, 60s, there were these couple of pensioners going in to see the film. And as they were walking through the foyer, just before the film started, on the floor was a wad of £5 notes, which was a lot of money in the 50s. And he said, quick, pick them up before anybody sees you. Pick that wad of notes up. So she picks them up. He said, don't put them in your handbag, because if anybody says they missed them, they might be searching the handbag. He said, put them somewhere safe. He said, put them down your knickers. So she said, okay. So they went in and saw the film. a couple of hours later, they come out, they went on the car park, and he says, right, he says, have you got that money? And she put her hand down, she said, oh, it's gone. He said, what? She said, you put it down your knickers? She said, I know, it must have been that nice man that was sitting next to me. And he said, well, what you let him do that for? She said, well, I didn't know he was a thief. Now, I'll tell you what we'll do. The band are coming back on soon, so we'll do a little skiffle number, So, we'll do this in C. Now, we'll see. Now, this is very difficult, very complex, because this is called the Rock Island line. And you've got to, now, the hard part is that you've got to talk and strum at the same time. You say, now, you come in when the rhythm starts, chap, so you don't have to right away. So here we come. Now, so I'll apologise if I cock this up. So here we come, right. Mr. Bastard. Right, here we come again. I must tune this up when I get home. Now this is the story about the Rock Island Line. Now the Rock Island Line, she run down to New Orleans. Right like you find a game, you take it down the stage for Rock Island Line. Thank you. Very nice. Now, the band are coming back now, and I mustn't be too late tonight because my wife's ill at home with laryngitis, and obviously I don't want to miss that. But plus the fact, I must admit I'm starting to get on my own nerves a bit now. So there we go. So the band are coming back now, and I'll get my poems out of the way, and that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming along. It's been a lovely audience. It's been great to play to you. And we'd like to thank all the members of the band, but first of all, of course, our special guest, Mr. Bev Pegg. Then Ron Hills on the trombone. Jon Penn on the double bass. On the drum, Jon Penn on the piano, Gordon Lippert, trumpet and the vocals, and lovely singing Miss Cass Shennington, and I'm George Huxley, and we'll see you all next month